You know when the messaging app starts buzzing, grabbing your attention? You see it, your heart skips a beat, and before you can even think, your fingers are frantically typing. You write a rant, a strong opinion, or even a simple invitation that seemed too exposed. You press send, a second of silence, 2 seconds. Panic rises in your throat like a reflux of anxiety. I shouldn't have said that. I'll seem desperate. What if she misinterprets it? Before the blue checkmark dares to appear, you rush, press the message, and click that fateful delete for everyone. The gray trail of "this message was deleted" remains there, like a digital scar, but for you, at that moment, it's a relief. Or is it? What few people tell you is that this gray trail says much more about who you are than the original text ever would. Today, we're going to descend into the basement of your mind to understand the psychology behind social insecurity and why this need to delete yourself is silently sabotaging your ability to create real connections. I'm going to give you the map to this hypervigilance and show you how to stop being your own cruelest censor. It's much crueler than you imagine, I'm aware of that. We usually treat the delete button as a simple eraser, a course correction, but in serious psychology, we look at it through a lens called enhanced self-monitoring. Imagine that inside your head there's an extremely demanding film director, a guy who accepts nothing less than the perfect scene. When you interact with the world, this director edits your every line in real time. The problem is that in the digital world, this director has gained superpowers. He has time to analyze every comma, every emoji, every timing. What happens is that you enter a mode of obsessive curation of your own existence. You don't just want to communicate, you want to manage the perception that the other person has of you in a millimetric way. It's the search for the aesthetics of adequacy. And the great danger here is that the more you delete, the more you convince your brain that your spontaneous version, the one that misses the timing of your response or makes a grammatical slip, is dangerous and should be hidden. Let's understand what's going on in your biological hardware. Your brain has a very old security system, controlled by the amygdala, which is responsible for detecting threats. Thousands of years ago, being excluded from a group meant certain death on the savannah. Today, death is the silence on WhatsApp or a cold response. When you send something that makes you feel vulnerable, your amygdala interprets it as a risk of imminent social rejection. The fear of rejection activates the very same areas of physical pain in the brain. Yes, being ignored hurts like a punch in the stomach. Therefore, deleting the message is an instant relief mechanism, a dose of reverse dopamine. You feel you've escaped judgment. But here's the trap. This relief is false. You may have deleted the text, but you reinforced your insecurity. You told yourself, "I'm not secure enough to handle what I feel." And there's a component that almost no one notices, the message ghost effect. The gray trail left in the chat, "This message was deleted," is an invitation to the other person's paranoia. The psychology of communication shows that trust is built on predictability and transparency. When someone sees that you deleted something, that person's brain, which is also trained to detect threats, begins to fill the void with the worst hypotheses. Did he regret calling me? Did she say something hurtful and then chicken out? In an attempt to appear cleaner or more appropriate, you end up generating a noise of distrust that is much harder to fix than a typo or a misinterpreted phrase. You are trading your humanity for a shadow of doubt. This leads us to a point of deep reflection on how we're treating ourselves. If you're the kind of person who lives in the cycle of digital regret, you probably suffer from what we call defensive hyper-independence. You've learned that you can't bother anyone, that you can't make mistakes, and that your presence needs to be invisible to be accepted. You've become a master at leaving no trace. But think about it. Did the deepest connections in your life spring from perfection or vulnerability? Love and friendship grow in the cracks of our imperfections, not in the polishing of our masks. When you deprive yourself of being imperfect in a text conversation, you are closing the door to people knowing who you really are, with all your rough edges and uncertainties. And speaking of leaving no trace of doubt and truly committing to who you are, I wanted to extend a life-changing invitation. Many people watch videos like this, experience that spark of clarity, but then quickly erase that idea from their minds and go back to sabotaging themselves in the next conversation. Subscribing to this channel is the opposite of deleting a message. It's sending a clear signal to your subconscious that you've decided to stop editing your evolution. It's a commitment to keeping the trail of your growth visible. If you want to stop being a hostage to this social anxiety and start understanding the gears that drive your fears, this is the place for you. Here, we don't seek perfection, we seek authority over our own minds. So, click that subscribe button now. Don't erase this opportunity to understand yourself better. Let's build a confidence that doesn't depend on a delete button. Now, back to center stage. Why does the judgment of others weigh so heavily? There's a fascinating phenomenon called the spotlight effect. We walk through the world thinking there's a spotlight pointed at our every little flaw. You think the other person is analyzing the syntactic structure of your message, the time you took to respond, and your emoji choice, as if they were a forensic expert. But the reality is much more banal. The other person is immersed in their own problems, their own insecurities, and their own spotlight. Almost no one is paying as much attention to you as you are to yourself. This distorted perception creates an unbearable pressure that leads to pressing the delete button. You're trying to protect yourself from a judge who most of the time hasn't even entered the courtroom. Another crucial factor is the loss of non-verbal language in the digital world. When we speak face-to-face, our tone of voice, posture, and gaze soften our words. In text, everything is dry. This generates a fill-in anxiety. Since you don't know how the person will hear your text, you try to predict all the possible negative interpretations. It's an exhausting mental chess game where you play against your own paranoia. And when the pressure of uncertainty gets too high, you delete to reset the game. The problem is that life doesn't have a reset button. By becoming addicted to delete for everyone, you unlearn the art of dealing with discomfort, of apologizing, or simply saying, "Hey, I expressed myself poorly. What I meant was X." The interpretation will depend on each person. In the long run, this habit creates a silent erosion of your identity. You begin to have difficulty making real-time decisions outside of screens. If you don't train your acceptance muscle in the digital world, you arrive in the physical world, in meetings, gatherings, or family conversations, completely unprepared. There's no Control-Z there. What's said is said. And if you can't defend a textual error, how will you defend your truth in the face of a real conflict? The path to healing this social insecurity necessarily involves exposure to discomfort. It's about learning to live with the message sent, even if it gives you that nervous feeling in your stomach. How do we turn this around in practice? I suggest two fundamental exercises. The first is the active waiting rule. If you feel that visceral urge to delete a message, force yourself to leave the app for 15 minutes. Go wash the dishes, take a walk, or listen to music. In the vast majority of cases, when the cortisol, the stress hormone, releases, you realize that the message wasn't the end of the world. The exercise is exposure to purposeful error. Start sending messages with small typos or simple phrases without proofreading. Leave them there. Watch the world keep turning. You will discover in practice that people don't love or respect you for your perfection, but for your presence and authenticity. The psychology of those who delete messages is the psychology of those who have a deep fear of being discovered as imperfect. But the liberating truth is that everyone is. Perfection is a barrier to intimacy. When you uphold your message, you are saying, "I am human, I make mistakes, I feel, and I am here." That is power. That is social authority. Keeping the message there with all its weight and its naked truth is an act of supreme courage in today's world. It's the first step for you to stop being a worried spectator of your own life and start being the protagonist of it. To conclude, I want you to remember this. The conversations that truly change our lives are never the ones that go perfectly. They're the conversations where we stuttered, where we said things we shouldn't have said, where we opened up and risked being judged. Real life happens through improvisation, mistakes, and the courage to remain present even when it's scary. Your vulnerability isn't a factory defect, it's what makes you magnetic. So, the next time your finger hovers over delete for everyone, remember, that message could be the bridge you've been searching for to a real connection. If this video helped you see this pattern and gave you direction in dealing with your anxiety, I'm sure you'll be interested in another related topic, the constant need for external validation and how it drains our energy. I'll leave a video recommendation here on the screen that delves into how we can build internal validation that doesn't depend on anyone's blue check mark. Click there. Let's continue expanding this awareness. And tell me in the comments